Hispanics migration immigration. Hispanics came for a lot of things. They came for um, work, school, el- uh, uh, electricity, and when they were very poor. They came a lot to California because it was a very rich place, as most of you know. But they mostly came here because a lot of family probably traveled here. Like I know this by fact. A lot of my family came because of my parents. They came first, and then so they told them how better it was here, so they brought them. Um, Also, but it wasn't easy for them because they had border protection. If they were caught on the other side of the border, they would be sent back with no regret or nothing. Or if you were caught at the borderline, then you would be put in jail for at least 3 or 6 months. And it wasn't very good for them back there. Government. Alright, in 2013, Obama proposed to legalize a lot of immigrants from outside of Washington. And the difference between illegal and legal immigrants is that if you were illegal, you would actually come here more dangerous, more by journey, not by airplane, um, private jet or nothing like that. It would be probably feet, car, or hours overnight.
Okay, so um, some African Americans started to migrate between 1915 and 1870. They came for better jobs and better opportunities. Um, Outside the South, blacks had legal rights, but they faced widespread discrimination pretty much wherever they went. Thursday, December 1st, 1955, is the day Rosa Parks took a brave step to end segregation on all public accommodations.
Mr. King Jr. He wanted free for blacks because they didn't really have the same rights. Like, say they couldn't use the same bathroom, they couldn't go to the same restaurants, and they couldn't even they couldn't even ride the bus in the same seats. They had rundown schools, like, say, a white school looked just like this regular school, but the black school was like, it was like crumbling apart, collapsing. And Martin Luther King wanted to change that, and it just wasn't right. And there's just a few pictures.
Okay, so I did Asian American experience, and the three uh, major subgroups of the Asian Americans are Chinese, Japanese, and Filipinos. They came for better resources, better lives, and labor. And since they came, they inspired architecture, cuisine, art, and fashion. So the first group is Chinese. They're the first Asian American group to come, and they had high expectations for themselves. Their discipline was very high. They would teach their children very early in age. And since China became a communist country, America and China broke off ties, but they soon rejoined and became business partners. And that's their flag. For Japanese, they were the second Asian ethnic group to come, and their population was a bit more than the Chinese, and they were kicked out during World War II. The Americans didn't like them since didn't trust them that much, because the bombing in Pearl Harbor was from Japan, and so they thought they weren't trustworthy, and they didn't want the Japanese in Washington, so they were trying to get rid of them and make laws and boycotts. they had to put up with discrimination and prejudice like all the colored people had to. And that's their flag. Filipinos came after Chinese and Japanese when the population of Japanese and Chinese were lowering decreasing. Filipinos came and they were identified as Pacific Islanders or came from the Philippine Islands. So discrimination didn't take place at first because they weren't exactly described as Asian. And now they became leaders, such as in political stuff and other leadership stuff. And they became prominent in arts like poetry and writing. And that's their flag.
Native Americans. Native Americans were kicked out of their land because whites wanted their land. They were forced out by government. They were even more forced out by government. They were sent to a very special territory for natives. The journey there was very dangerous. So they call it the journey of tears. I think it was. Yeah, the journey of tears. But it was a very special territory for them. More than 500 tribes live here, still are here in Washington State. They made a lot of women during World War II. They made a lot of women work because how it affected a lot of tribes and all that people during that time, which they didn't get the equal pay as men, which wasn't unfair to them. Couple pictures. Natives traditions. Also, ancient traditions that they have, they still live today. Their stories, songs, their dancing, their art. They did a lot of hunting, like fishing, hunting for their food. They didn't just go to stores and buy them. They actually worked for their food. They picked wild berries. It was like that was a lot of nutrients for them. Their lifestyle. Every tribe has a unique history. There are more than 500 tribes in Washington State, as I said. The culture of living in reservations, they had lots of them. Which the thing that for them was a lot of hunting to survive. A woman worked around the house mostly. Men would go out, hunt, gather. Children would help mostly the women around the house. A lot by there was a lot of Native Americans that don't live in reservations now. They're all out in different houses or apartments or something. Then he slammed on the brakes, turned around and grumbled, but she was tired that day. The weariness was in her bones, and so the things she'd done yesterday and yesteryear, on her work days, church days, nothing to do, all I go and visit. Sister any days, she felt she'd never do again, and she growled once more. She said, "No, sir, I'm staying right here," and she gruffly grabbed her, pulled and pushed her, then sharply shoved her through the doors. The news slushed through the littered streets, slipped into the crowded churches, slimmered onto the unmagnified side of town, while the men talked and talked and talked. She, who was tired that day, cried and saw that she was glad she'd done it, that her soul satisfied, that the Lord knows a little walking never hurt anybody, that in one of those unplanned, unexpected, undored moments, a woman turned the page of history.
Who knew that a simple refusal could change everything? One short phrase, "No sir, I'm staying right here," could change the lives of every black in the South City. I was We weren't allowed to use the same washrooms, restrooms, or anything that was considered white. Most importantly, if we wanted to ride the bus, we had to sit in the back. I don't know where this random surgicalness came from, but I will not give up my seat. I will no longer be treated as a minority. Today, December 1st, 1955, is the day I, a 3-year-old woman, changed history. So, my artifact was a bus. Rosa Parks was an integral part of the desegregation process. December 1st, 1955 is the day she changed history. There was once a law that stated that African Americans had to sit in the back of the bus. They weren't allowed to sit anywhere they wanted to. Today, we take transportation for granted. In the 1900s, the bus was the only means for blacks to travel on the city.
So my item that I got was the Martin Luther King speech. This piece of it. We all allow freedom to ring when we let it ring, and from every city, from every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men, white men, Jews, Gentiles, Protestants, and Catholics will be able to join hands and sing the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
For my artifact, I brought traditional Chinese clothing. This one's a dress. And then here's a shirt for a girl. These are girl clothes. And here's a skirt that matches with the shirt. And the reason why I brought traditional Chinese clothes is because it's supposed to represent Asian culture in general, but it shows that the Asians would stay true to whom they were and where they came from. They stay true to their origin and culture. Well, they taught their children American culture, but they taught their culture first before they learned American. And it also shows the diversity that they brought to America and how they would inspire some of their fashion. And it also shows the pieces of identity that they brought with them when they came to America.
My artifact is this outlet. The reason I brought this was because they had a lot of reasons to. They didn't have electricity. They suffered for this. They didn't have phones, internet. All we have here, they didn't have that. They came here for this. I know this by fact. My parents came here so I could get all this. They didn't have all this. School for them only went up to 6th grade, and then you had to pay to go higher than 6th grade. It wasn't easy for them. And then on our age here, you would be working over there by now. There would be no school unless you paid. All this technology involved too. We didn't get this. We didn't have electricity. It was a lot of hunting, no